So that was a video that you may have seen before of Chada, the Himalayan bear, coming out of hibernation, coming out of her den after the winter. So she's in the White Rock Bear Sanctuary, which is in Ukraine. It's still going despite the war. And yeah, so why is the video notable other than it being pretty cute? Well, Chada is an interesting case, a sad case in many ways, because she was kept in a cage for 7 years before she was brought and rescued and brought to the White Rock Bear Sanctuary. So to go into more detail on that, Chada was owned by a guy, sort of, I guess, a freelance owner of bears who would rent them out to circuses and work with circuses in Russia and Ukraine. And when Chada wasn't so useful for whatever reason, he kept her in a little cage for around 7 years.
And Chada is not the only bear at this particular sanctuary who was rescued from a cage. There's also Mai Hasik. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but this is a brown bear found in Ukraine in the Komilinskyi Oblast. Yeah, but kept in a cage.
So how does something like this happen? Well, in countries like China, Russia, and Morocco, they don't really have a lot of animal protection laws in place. Hey, look at the screen, there's important information. So you can sort of get away with doing this. In China, it's sort of not, it's not a point of interest yet. It's sort of more focused on the people because they're still, recently been quite a poor country. So they just haven't got to that stage yet, I guess, and who knows if they will. With Russia, it's said to be there's a lot of circus lobbyists for the circus who kind of keep in place the old way of doing things with the circuses. So for example, while in England using animals in circuses has been banned as of 2019, in Russia, as we can see here, this is a bear on a hoverboard in a circus, which actually was sort of widely reported because the bear got off and attacked the trainer. But it's interesting that all the reports sort of focus on how the guy got attacked rather than how the bear is being used in a circus. So it's sort of still being reported from a human-centric sort of side rather than looking at, is it actually fair for a bear to be put into a circus? So why is it actually a problem in itself for animals to be kept in circuses? Well, according to Born Free USA, animals in circuses spend about 11 months traveling, 11 months of the year traveling, which is obviously 11 out of 12, which is a lot. So by studying snow tracks in Siberia, Soviet researchers said that tigers normally travel 15 to 20 kilometers per day, and I got that from picturesofcats.org. But you can imagine, how different that is from having to travel to and from circuses, in a cage. Particularly as for some circuses, the conditions that the animals actually travel about in is not, up to like regulatory standards. So, for example, the Franz and Bros circus had ponies confiscated from a filthy trailer apparently, and also tigers from a similarly filthy trailer. So it does happen in countries like the US as well. It's not just these like second world countries, it's also the US. It's not all the circuses have animals in, and not all the circuses with animals are as bad as some, but circuses like Carson and Barnes have been like cited or summoned to the court by the US Department of Agriculture like many times. Sometimes there's one circus called There's one circus called the Carden International Circus, which has had an elephant with tuberculosis in it. So And you know, there's statistics which say that 5% of elephants in circuses have TB, so it obviously spreads around, and they don't care so much. And you know, as I mentioned on a previous slide, there's these shrine circuses, which are circuses organized by Shriners. Shriners, if you don't know, are like a Freemason group. So it's like a how would you say, a fraternity, and they organize circuses, and they still use elephants and bull hooks. So you can see videos on YouTube of them like smacking elephants around with big hooks, and they travel all across the US. Like as they have like a schedule that they do, I think every year or something, where they go to a bunch of different places in the US. So you know, while in like first world countries it's getting less popular because more people are going to like animal-free circuses, like the Cirque du Soleil Canadian one, which I can't remember at the moment. There is still animal ones like the Shriner circuses, and yeah, I guess you could say, like, if the animals weren't in the circuses, then they'd just be, you know, like elephants would just be hunted for their ivory, and you know, I guess that's true. So not only do we need to not go to animal circuses, but we also need to not buy things made out of ivory or fur. And if you're wondering what actually is made out of ivory, it's often just like stuff like chess sets, like the pieces in chess sets. So you know, it's not really needed. It's just sort of, it feels nicer and it looks nicer. You know, is it worth killing an elephant just so you can have ivory chess pieces instead of wooden ones? You know, that's for you to decide, I guess, but I think I know where I stand. But you know, Chada's story does have a happy ending, because you know, she lives out her twilight years at the White Rock Sanctuary, and you know, she seems to be doing okay there. She likes to play with, like, she's got a little paddling pool area. She likes to sort of every day get up and splash the water around, and they call her like a sassy old lady. Like, apparently that's her sort of character. So you know, that's kind of cool. But hopefully, maybe at some point we get to the point where there aren't going to be any more tragedies similar to the start of Chada's life. Hopefully.